Welcome back, friends and neighbors, to another video on the channel. And today I want to talk about something that you may or may not have known. I hear there's a lot of misconception about it out there, but before I get into it, if there's one show that a lot of us rednecks, hillbillies, and Lord knows whatever else kind of southerners like, an old TV show, that would be the Dukes of Hazzard that ran from 1979 to 1985. We all know it well. We love the Duke boys and their General Lee. We love Sweet Daisy and old Uncle Jesse. We like that boss hog that runs Hazzard County. And we like that Sheriff Scooby Coltrane. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. And don't forget, Deputy ain't a straight too. Don't forget about him. Well, what if I told you that running a show like that wasn't always the easiest thing in the world? And neither is movies for that matter. Because today I'm going to tell y'all about the time that a cameraman actually did die while making the Dukes of Hazzard. And his name was Rodney Mitchell. Now, like I said, there's a whole lot of misconception about it out there, according to John Snyder, who played Bo Duke. So I'm going to base the story off of mostly what he said, maybe a little bit of what I heard on the internet, but mostly what he said. So why don't we dive right into it? Buckle up tight now. Now, if I remember right, this here took place on June 18th of 1980. And a lot of people, I guess one of the misinformation bits out there is that it might have been lousiness or irresponsibility, or they were doing a dangerous stunt. Well, according to John Snyder, it was none of those. It was just one of those accidents that just happened on account of, I do believe it was a rainy day and the road was messed up. And it just happened to lead to an accident. And it ended up costing a life. Now, I do believe that 8 other people were injured as well, but yes, Rodney Mitchell, like I said, one of the camera runners, was killed, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about. You never want to have any accidents when it comes to filming. But most of all, you don't want to lose a life either. Now, they had this here thing called second unit where, people would show up to work and they would park at base camp, right? They'd be parked there and they'd have base camp set up. And then they'd have their jump set up, right? Getting it all ready to rumble. Maybe it was being set up half a mile away or something like that. And basically they go round and round and round like a merry-go-round. Now, they didn't go back to base camp all the time because according to John Snyder, efficiency and time, well, efficiency was important as far as time goes. I imagine both of those really factored into making this classic and iconic show. They would all travel together to do the stunt, and then they go to the next place to do the stunt, and travel to the next spot to do the stunt. In them days, of course, they had the General Lee and they had the copper smoky cars, whatever they was going to use, like whatever kind of cars or trucks they was going to use to do the stunt. Now, usually it was only the man or guy that was going to be doing the stunt. Like usually it was only going to be the actor or the double that's, going to be doing the driving, going to be doing all the tearing up dust and stuff like that. And like I said, they also had a van that had about 15 passengers on there. And then they had the gear with them. And then, most of all, they'd also have the camera car. Now, actually, according to John Snyder, it was a truck, but whatever you want to call it, they had the camera vehicle there as well, because, that's what's going to be filming the show. Now, we're probably talking about a 3/4 ton pickup truck, the camera truck. Now, everybody would either travel in that van, or whatever car, truck, whatever's going to be used that they was going to wreck, or, of course, the pickup truck. Now, on that camera truck, there's a whole lot of places for gear, cameras, and Lord knows what else. There's a lot of people on that thing. They'd probably sit in there to go over script notes, go over shots, and camera angles, and just whatever they had in mind to do the scene, right? It's pretty much a table on wheels, if you think about it. They'd do the shot and then stop, and then they'd set up the next shot, do the stunt, stop, move on, and they'd basically do that again and again and again, basically a lot like a copy and paste of every little step along the way. A lot like a merry-go-round, like I said, round and round and round and round and round. Then they go on back down to base camp and they'd have lunch there. And then they get out there again and do the same dadgum thing. Then they go on back to their cars and they go on home and they come back the next day and do the same thing. Now, on the day of the accident, the day that Rodney Mitchell was killed, the Burbank Studios is where John Snyder and Tom was at. They weren't out there at the accident. They were at Burbank Studios. That's what John Snyder says Warner Brothers was called back then. That place or whatever it was. Now, he also says it was a Monday, so therefore, according to him, it had rained a bunch over the weekend, so that probably means the roads was pretty sloppy. They had all kinds of roads that you see in the show. All the roads and streets and stuff that you see in the Dukes of Hazzard, they had a bunch of roads like that over yonder at Lake Sherwood where this happened. Now, the cars behind the camera truck that was being filmed, they would fight for position. They'd try to cut off each other and fight each other just like you see in the show. Now, according to the old Bo Duke himself, they wasn't going very fast. They was only doing about 25 or 20 miles an hour. And he says that's another thing that a lot of people say that they were going fast. They weren't going fast. It was not a reckless thing like a lot of folks say it was. They were on a dirt road that was rutted from months and months and months of cars driving all over it, right? The road had been rained on all weekend. Now, when they were going around, I guess it was a sharp corner, maybe not a super sharp corner, but sharp enough corner, I guess we'll say that. That's what John said anyway. Out at Lake Sherwood, the thing got caught in a rut that was slippery, and it was obviously deeper because it rained so much there was all water in it. And when it rains in California, it rains like a son of a gun, like it's flash flood time over there. Now, camera cars and or camera trucks are friggin' heavy, so that front wheel, got caught in there when they were going around the corner. Now, you slip that front wheel, it's a pretty serious daggone thing. And then the thing adjusted. So when it adjusted, there was crew members on there, including Rodney Mitchell. And what's kind of funny about all this is that them people that were on that truck, they had done that thousands of times, and nothing ever happened until that day. They done that exact same thing each and every day, right? Nothing happened until that very sad June day in 1980. And sometimes there wasn't even another car attached to the thing. With the rain and the rut and the mud, and when that front tire caught on that thing, we never know. It could have been a little old tiny rock about the size of this here microphone I'm speaking into this. And of course, the weight of the people on top of the truck also come into play. And when that camera truck started flipping over, there was nothing anybody could do about it. Once it was going, it was going. No stopping it. And it wasn't going but 20, 25 miles an hour. Rodney Mitchell was down there on the bottom deck filming the scene. He was looking through that camera doing exactly what he was doing good at, doing something he loved. And it was sad, because a lot of those amazing shots that you see in the Dukes of Hazzard, a lot of those were done by this here Rodney Mitchell. Rodney Mitchell probably had his eyepiece on that Panavision until the truck flipped. So I guess according to John Snyder, it wasn't nobody's fault. Accidents just happen, that's what happens when it rains for so daggum long, it messes the dirt roads up and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure, how heavy the truck was and how many people were on it, and the sharp corner, whatever it was, I'm sure all those factors are what led to poor Rodney Mitchell's demise on that sad day. And like I said earlier, it wasn't no big old giant big bad stunt like a lot of people say it was. Nothing like that at all. Wasn't no big giant stunt. Just a simple filming. Didn't have nothing to do with the driver being stupid. It wasn't carelessness. It wasn't anything. It was just, accidents happen. Sometimes there ain't much you can do about it. John Snyder said their camera operator and their camera truck driver was the best in the world. They weren't in good hands. He says they were in the best hands. And so I guess there's just no better way to put it except, accidents happen. And unfortunately, it led to Rodney Mitchell hitting them pearly gates that day. It just happens, I guess. And I do believe that incident might be the reason why a lot of people didn't sit up there no more. Sit up there on the camera truck is because of that accident. And it was a sad day for everybody, especially Rodney Mitchell's family now. And of course, like I said earlier, 8 other people were injured, but Mr. Rodney Mitchell was killed. So I guess to wrap up this here conclusion, in case y'all didn't understand a bit of what I just said, I'll have a link down there in the description of John Snyder's perspective on the incident. In case you didn't understand a darn thing I said, he might be able to explain it better than I can, or I just did. So basically, to make it all simple, camera assistant Rodney Mitchell was killed, and 8 other Dukes of Hazzard crew members were injured when a 3/4-ton camera truck they were riding flipped over while rehearsing a chase scene near Lake Sherwood, California. Rodney Mitchell was killed, shooting the TV show when the camera car rolled over and hit a soft side, the shoulder on the side of the road. So, rest in peace, Mr. Rodney Mitchell. You may be gone, but you are never forgotten. And all the Dukes of Hazzard members, whether they're still alive or up there in heaven with you, will never forget that sad day on June 18th of 1980 when you lost your life. But we sure do appreciate you for all the amazing shots and all the amazing scenes to make this show what it is today.